Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome to another Sunday scream. Nah, we're past Halloween. Welcome to another Sunday stream with Sound Engraver. I hope you guys are doing well. It's going to be a pretty fun topic today. Let me just go ahead and take that banner off for a second. That was my original music, of course, not AI generated. That was my original track from produced almost 5 years ago now. Like, that's kind of hard to think about. Next 2019, May of 2019, I think it was when I released that. So that's pretty significant. And actually, to be honest, I feel like I think the next 5 years I'm gonna really need to up the ante as far as my music. And actually, that was my violin playing. Just if in case you were curious, in a real life performance, yes, I would play that melody all the way through, but that actually was very that those violin sounds that you were hearing, yes, that's all my violin, but it was really take after take and selecting and editing and adding so much expression, and it was a lot of work that went into that track, just saying. But yes, just as I'll just kind of front this whole stream with, will I be using AI music in the future? Will I be composing with AI generators in the future? No. I have pretty much decided, as far as my music is concerned, not to do anything that is generated by AI. Now, some people might say, "Well, you're anti AI and stuff like that," and they can use that term. This is a pretty heated topic. I've been all over the YouTube sphere on this topic. I've listened to so many YouTubers, people I would never have looked to see, like, visual artists and all sorts of artists and people who are for AI, people who are against AI, and it's all over the map. I've expanded. I've trekked the gamut of the debate, and the more I look into it, the more I would say, as an artist, I will not be supporting AI generation or AI generated art. And we'll discuss why. And there are so many things to talk about. I just cannot fit it into one stream. It's really worth an essay video or something like that. I know a lot of people may support AI, and that to each his own. I will always say that you have your own freedom and your own agency to do what you will with your time and your talents. For me personally, I can't get behind AI for reasons I've really learned to kind of, I would say, discover and then also assess and reassess. Constant evaluation. That actually really is the experience of the life of an artist. Is you're constantly evaluating and assessing and maybe thinking, rethinking, reconsidering. And so that has been I think the last few months, I would say a good few months of thinking about AI art. And I know I'm late in the game as far as talking about AI art. I know this has been long discussed for probably a good 9 or 10 months now, when AI art really, really took hold. I think it was probably at the start of 2023 when it got to be very popular because of because all the videos that I've been watching about AI and AI art has been maybe 9 months old or 10 months old, so older videos. It's not a new topic. It's not a new discussion. So um, I'm offering my own thoughts on it, and I hope you guys like what you hear. And if you don't, if you disagree, then I would just say we can all be respectful, and because it could be more or less controversial topic. Now, I'm going to actually start this stream by, yes, I will be welcoming the chat soon, but I will start this stream with not even going near the ethical aspect of it or the legal aspect. I've seen both sides of the equation as far as people who support AI saying it's fine, legally it's fine. I've seen artists who are up in arms against, saying there will be lawsuits in the future regarding copyright or lack thereof. So I'm not even going to talk about the legal ramifications of what AI art could be about. That's for other channels, that's for other videos. There are more than enough videos to go around on the legal aspects of it. I'm going to be talking more of the personal and human and maybe even spiritual aspect when it comes to that. But before we get into all that discussion, let's go ahead and welcome the chat. All right. It looks like seems like I'm good. So sound okay. Audio sounds great by my wonderful prof, because I see the halo. I see the glowing halo of sound. So that's good. Audio sounds great. Great. Great, great, great. All right. First in our chat is Team Oz, and he's pretty much known around the pop culture circles. So good to have you here. You say I got better at digital painting when AI failed to get the results I wanted, but I still want to defend AI art. And yeah, that's your prerogative and absolutely your freedom to do that. So we may have a debate or some disagreements there, but at least I do like that you are seeing. It sounds like you are reassessing and evaluating your own personal results, because art, whether people think it's a journey, not the destination, art also is results. And if you're not happy with the results because of different tools you use, you might reconsider and get a new tool, or try a new way, try new methods. So it's good that you're being a lot. I would say you're very balanced. It sounds like you're exploring different options there, and I support digital art. Unlike many people I've read and listened to, people think AI art is digital art, and there's a distinction, and we'll get to that soon. Um, let's go ahead and continue. Brian Gilmartin says that you have a feeling you're going to like this one. I hope so. I hope it makes sense. I have a lot of thoughts, but they're a little on the disorganized side, so we'll just cover as much as we can for the stream. We have Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0. Welcome. We've got channel member Gigawatt 1.21. Okay, so your name is 1.21, which is good, because that's your name. I have you at the end of my videos when I shout out channel members. So good. I don't know if you changed it because I mentioned that before, but thank you for keeping it 1.21. And you ask, can the rise of Skynet be stopped? I'm going to say this, Gigawatt. Honestly, I don't think AI will be as prevalent in the next 3 to 5 years as people say it will. I will say this, maybe with things like engineering and businesses and some kind of commerce, maybe. But as far as the art world is concerned, I don't think it's going to take hold as prominently as people want to believe, people who would support the use of AI art. I could be wrong, but I'm not guessing so. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think AI is inherently evil. I don't think it's an evil side. It's honestly it depends on how the users use AI. So, but I could be wrong about that too. Professor Geek, my wonderful prof, says, and husband says, music sounds great. Drop those truth bombs. My shield maiden bride. Thank you. And Big Al says, I was on another window and the music started and it scared me. I'm so sorry. I hope it sounded pleasant, not too loud. Have a great show, Sound Engraver. Wonderful to have you as always. Big Al presents. And let's see. Oh, deep breaths, Al. At first I thought Prof was saying deep breaths AI. I've decided to actually title anytime I talk about AI, I'm going to title it with A and then also lowercase I. Now that might look like something cheesy or even outdated or whatever, but the capital I does look like an L. And we do have our friend Big Al, but we also, it just looks like the name Al. And so I'm actually going to just keep it lowercase from now on. And and I don't really care for the A period, I period either. It's just something maybe unique to me. All right, Stunning and Brave Megatron. I'm going to call you Megatron for short. We will be screaming at AI art, so it kind of works. Owen Lister says, welcome. Good to have you. Also an artist himself. Got to stay for a while, or you're going to stay for a while, but I do have somewhere to go. But here's my stance on AI art. I've become less and less a fan of it. I'll stick to drawing. Also, you're original music is great. Thank you. That and I think and I hope even if you're not here for when I discuss it, Owen, if you can catch the replay because this really what I want to say is appealing to artists in general. So no matter what field you work in, this will apply to everyone who is building their skill in some way, in some capacity. So hopefully you can catch the replay on this. And then speaking of artists, we also have Adega Outlaw, who is a writer. He is a published author. Welcome. Good to have you. I think Adega Outlaw, if I remember correctly, you do write science fiction, and I think you also write dark fantasy. So anyone interested in science fiction and dark fantasy, go check him out. And also, Adega Outlaw, if there's any other platform besides Amazon, I do recommend you on Amazon. But if you have another way of, well, you also have your YouTube channel. I think you Oh, do you I think you do Audible books on your books for your YouTube channel. So anyone interested in some fiction there, go check out Adega Outlaw. And I'll just post it up so you can see his name. There you go. All right. Owen Lister says art is better when made by humans. We will get to that. Definitely. Brian Gilmartin says, you just reminded me of how it's been almost a decade since I came up with my original characters. Funny how time flies. You know what? I was just thinking, I'll just say it right now before I forget. Like you reminded me with that comment that it has been March, no, May of 2024. It will be 10 years since I got my master's in music. That is crazy to think about. But at the same time, a lot has happened in those 10 years. So I can see it being 10 years. But it has been 10 years since I got my master's in music composition. And it's been 10 years just plowing away at electronic music and music composition in general. And I've got a ways to go, but it is about building your skill and practicing and we'll cover that a little bit more in detail. Leonard Harker, welcome. You say the problem is that people who are for AI is incredibly reductive because they simplify it as just a picture. Art is a person's interpretation of reality. Yes, it's an expression of reality. Gosh, you guys with your comments are kind of jumping the gun about what I'm going to say. I got my notes here, and so yes. You're very much right, and I kind of want to just touch on this comment. And in fact, it's good enough. I usually don't post comments much anymore, except with channel members. But let me go ahead and bring this up. This probably will be a stream of bringing good comments up. You say that art is a person's interpretation of reality, and also you're using words like reductive, and it really is true. The reason why I want to bring that up is that even with something like AI art, and I'm going to be talking about AI art as a term, like those words are going to be used as a term, AI art versus art. People might think, oh, you can't distinguish the two. If it's good enough, it's art. And I'm like, well, we're just going to call it AI art, not art by itself. I don't see it to be art for one of the reasons which you say, and you say it's a person's interpretation of reality. And I do believe this, and this comes from RJ from the Fourth Age. He says that art is a representation of reality. And even more than that, the distinction of very good, high quality art is a human experience. It's a human experience. And what that means is that every artist out there in the world, both living and deceased, they have their own personal, unique way of expressing their art, expressing in a different style, a kind of medium. And what happens with AI art in general, I've made this comment before on comments and in videos, and a lot of people don't like me saying this, but because AI is really derivative of all models and data out there, soon, maybe not now, maybe now, who's to say? Some people might agree with me right now. Some people might not see it until the future. If you're working with already, if you're working with data as input, even if it's a massive amount of data, chances are AI art will be a lot more selective with its mass appeal, meaning it's going to be more selective and, dare I say, homogenous with its chosen style, because people are going to gravitate toward what really looks good, quote, looks good, unquote, saying, wow, that looks great. I'm going to use that model. I'm going to use that style. And then it's going to be this kind of process of elimination where we're just going to see very specific styles that are just popular. And because of that, it's going to be more and more generic, even as a concept piece, even as concept art. And I think people are just going to see it a lot more easily saying, that's AI art. And maybe they'll like it, but you can't deny, no one can deny, no matter how supportive they are of AI art, no one can deny that there is a stigma attached to it. Meaning, if you are working in the AI generative space, generating space, you say as much to maybe a potential client or a colleague or just another artist in general, you're going to be faced with some level of backlash. Maybe not aggressive backlash, but you're gonna get some negative feedback because more and more now people are saying, you know what, I'm not really for AI. No matter how much it's supported, there's a lot of people that do not support AI. And so if you're working with AI, even if you're really good at what you do with the tools that you use, there's still going to be some stigma. And part of it is because we're human beings and we really do innately gravitate towards something that is produced by another human being. The the machine churning, mass producing, you know, almost corporate communist levels, dare I say, of art generated images actually does make a lot of people respond negatively. And I think that's actually okay. I think we should encourage this community of people, artists or otherwise, people who maybe support art. We should encourage a community who would be positively responsive, responding positively to someone producing and creating, producing, and fashioning their own work by their own hands, whether it's the actual physical space and the analog space, or even in the digital space, because digital art is still art. Digital art will require its own skill. Believe me, I'm speaking from experience, having released electronic music, which we will get to also. All right. Just making sure everything's good as far as audio. Good, good, good. I'll continue down the chat, but looks like you guys are having a lot of great comments just to start this stream. This is great. Brian Gilmartin says, my dad supports AI because he thinks it will benefit independent creators once it gets in their hands. Naturally, I strongly disagree. Yeah, we're going to get into that. I won't comment on that just right away, but you're touching on some things I want to actually touch on. Speaking not just as a composer working in this specific field of music, that is electronic music. I've done this for about 10 years now, including my studies, my graduate studies, and maybe a little bit of my undergraduate studies, but not just speaking it from experience as a composer who has released music, but also as a musician and also as a music teacher. I know that fact of mine comes up like, oh, here she goes talking about being a music teacher. Oh yeah, we're gonna be talking about that. Okay, Owen. Hopefully you can catch the replay. Good to see you. Exploring Fiction, welcome. I have not seen you before. Just stopping in to say hello. I've subbed to the prof for years and just subbed to you a few months ago. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. I haven't seen your name around, but hopefully you can come back. Yeah, awesome. Gigawatt makes a pretty astute comment, which I probably won't touch on in the stream today, but you say, I think the ethical issues comes with the AI models scraping from the internet from billions of pictures and other artists' artwork to train the AI without permission. And I will say, I'm not sure if this is true because I'm kind of relying on old information now, like even a couple months old. So forgive me if I'm misspeaking in this regard. But I think now, please correct me if you guys know anything new, but I think as far as I understand, AI art that you generate cannot be copyrighted. I think I said that correctly. AI art that you generate cannot be copyrighted as of yet. So someone can take from you and say, well, this is my art too. Maybe not the exact way, but they could take your very image and use that for future inspiration, as some people probably would describe it as. But it would be very close to your own AI generated image that cannot be saying I want to be written, no, copyrighted. So there's a lot of there are a lot of things. I would say a lot of future complications at stake. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't have to worry about it because I'm not going to be generating music from different artists. I'm just going to be making my own stuff. Now, there's so much to say. I should talk about my points first before I get too carried away. All right. Megatron says, I'll never touch an AI program. There's nothing more satisfying than holding something in your hands that you created with your blood, sweat, and tears. And I really can say the same for my electronic music. Of course, I can't well, no one can hold music. I can't experience, well, no, here's the thing. My experience with playing violin and being masterful at violin, yes, is a physical experience because I'm holding the instrument and playing and producing a sound out of that instrument. But I still have the same amount of satisfaction for composing a digital thing like electronic music. But you're right. But I will even go even further. What you say in this comment, saying there is nothing more satisfying than having personally developed your own skills and your own style and your own unique expression from years of practice and experimentation. Absolutely nothing can replace that. You can only take my word for it. You might agree, might disagree, but I would say you're right, Megatron. There's nothing like the human experience, even if you're not at the level at that artistic level you want to be. I'm very happy where I am now as a composer, but I am still imagining things that I don't think I can effectively produce until 10 years from now. 10 years of more practice and getting better at my craft and getting better at things like Logic Pro and SuperCollider and also my violin and also recording and also mastering. There are things I want to do that that it's going to take another 5 years of practice. It's going to take another 10 years of practice. But even so, I'm very happy at the stage I am at. I'm very happy. I'm very proud that I can release music the way I can release music and still get it to the best I can. You know, even though I feel a little bit limited still, I've got music tracks I'm working on. I'm so happy to share with the world. I'm just like, that'll be next year. It'll be 2024 before anything before I release anything more. But the stuff I'm working on now in music, oh yeah. It just puts a smile on my face. I just thinking about the music I'm working on. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So, before we get into more of the comments, because it seems like you guys have great ideas and great input already, I do want to talk about, I would say, I'd like to bring about, excuse me, one second. Sorry, I had to grab a swig of water there, but I do want to discuss a few points before going back into the chat. So, welcome to anyone who I may have missed, but I will definitely get to your comments soon. So, my title is pretty bold. I would say that I may change it, but it does say AI art is an art, and I do have reasons for that. Again, I will not be talking about the ethical reasons or the legalities, the legal problems of the software, uh, using these models that have been taken from different artists and different styles. So again, if you want some legal input, this is not the stream for it. You have more than enough videos by artists and maybe even lawyers, maybe even law experts who would have a good say in this. So I'm more speaking from the human experience. And so I just want to briefly just make the statement why I think AI art isn't art. And we actually touched on this just in the comments. That is, I do believe that art is a representation of reality, but it's inherently a human experience. And the reason I can say that so confidently is that we are innately creative as human beings. So, what makes this distinct from AI art? Well, it's because AI art is machine generated. And I want to bring to you pretty much the biggest misconception I've seen so far in this AI debate. And it comes from this adapt or die mindset. Maybe not exclusively so, but I would say that a lot of people who are in favor of AI art, who support it, have made the comment that people like me who would be against it are being a little close-minded by saying that, because how they make this argument is that they say, well, AI art is digital, it's of the digital space, it's of the, digital sphere, and these people against AI art are just reacting exactly like artists that were reacting against digital art. Well, you actually can't intellectually make that comparison. You can't actually compare that, well, this new AI art trend is the same as any trend when it comes to the digital media space. And it's because I think people know this. I just feel like they need reminding. The problem with AI art inherently is that the result you have with your art piece has been machine generated. Now people say, "Well, wait a second. We use AI art as a tool." I mean, I'm even seeing this in the music space where, maybe you're working in an electronic music piece and you just can't get that right synthesizer, and there are AI generated software now, like little plugins that say, "Oh, you want this space from this music sample or from this instrument sample?" And then it's going to generate like 16 or 20 or 30 different timbres, different sound colors to get that instrument that you like. And so people, I would say people are trying to argue for AI, saying, "Hey, it's just a simple tool like the rest, and you shouldn't be reacting against AI because you're being the same with the people years ago who reacted against using digital art, instead of the physical brush or the physical pencil, like the illustrators back then, they rallied against, they were up in arms and rallied against, the digital art space because they're not using physical brushes, And it sounds pretty extreme when I put it that way, but that's a common argument I've been seeing for people who are proponents of AI, saying, "You're just reacting negatively because this is a new trend, and you just gotta adapt to it. You gotta just use AI as a tool. And because you're an artist already, you're gonna, expand beyond all your limitations of time and intelligence and natural talents and stuff like that. So come on, get on board with AI." And it's here to stay, so you might as well use it so you can outperform other people, other artists. Now, I want to say right off the bat that you can't compare the reaction to this trend with previous trends. AI art is distinct from other digital art because it's machine generated. It's not human generated. Digital art, while using software, while using things that you did not create, developers created your digital art software. Developers created my Logic Pro. I didn't create Logic Pro. I didn't create SuperCollider. That is the software I use in for electronic music. But while we're using, I think I lost my train of thought just now, but I'll come back. But you can it's we're still working with our human intuition in the digital space. We're still working with our acquired skills in the digital space. How do I know? Well, for my music composition, yes, I work in Logic Pro with synthesizers. Absolutely true. I didn't create those synthesizers. They came, and sometimes I modify them. I will change up, I'll change the parameters, I'll change the sonic space, the feel of the said synthesizer. Sometimes I'll use the original synthesizers, but sometimes I'll work with that instrument exclusively for that afternoon and then create like 4 different instruments out of that instrument. So I I'm actually, when I first started really practicing and homing in on my craft of electronic music composition, I would take the instrument that was your preset, that was your plugin in Logic Pro that wasn't created by me, and then I'd create new instruments that no one actually could instantaneously, copy for themselves. Well, until AI kind of probably could copy my instruments if it wanted to. But I say that is because like a lot of electronic artists, they will use their own distinct instruments. And if they do not sell their instruments as loops, as something you can buy, you can't have access to it. You can't create those instruments. That those instruments are embedded there. It is set in that software, in that computer, in that private music studio. Those instruments are theirs. My instruments are mine. And yeah, sometimes I just I'll like if someone asked, and I'm sure I think one or two people have asked me in the past, like, "Oh, how did you get that instrument?" I'm like, "Oh, this is from the Alchemy synth in Logic Pro. You can find it. So here's the title of the instrument, and here it is. You can use it yourself, just like you can use a flute or a recorder, or a clarinet. So I mean, it's a little bit of a tangent, but going back to the working in the digital space, I could modify and change different instruments and they would be my own. But even more than that, and much, much more importantly than even that, let's say I used all the presets. Let's say I used all the instruments that Logic Pro provides that I did not create myself. I make the music. Why? How? I am a composer who knows music composition. I know music theory. I know what goes into a good melody. I know what goes into good rhythm, a good harmony. And that knowledge is transferable. This is the key thing here. That knowledge is transferable to any instrument medium, meaning the stuff I know about music, I can apply outside Logic Pro, outside SuperCollider. Well, actually SuperCollider, that's a bad example now that I think about it because it's audio synthesis. So the workings of SuperCollider is really generating sounds that I couldn't otherwise produce in Logic Pro or in the physical space. But in terms of music composition, I know melody, I know harmony, I know melody like Danny Elfman knows melody, which means if it was let's say in a hypothetical extreme, all like Logic Pro discontinued, all software discontinued, developers ceased to exist, they stopped making software for electronic music production, and then I was left to an orchestra or a piano or a chamber ensemble, I could still compose. That's the thing is those skills are transferable. So what you hear with my electronic music, yeah, it's specifically synthesizers. Yes, it's a specifically a very unusual sonic atmospheric realm you're in because I'm in the electronic music space. But the melodies that I come up with, like, I'll have a synth doing a melody right now as a placeholder for one of my tracks, but then I'll go to work, and then when I don't have a student, I'll practice that same melody on the violin. It's transferable. So yeah, I would really not want the digital space to leave because I love electronic music so much, but I wouldn't stop composing if Logic Pro went away, if SuperCollider went away. 'Cause I have my physical violin. I know the scales on the piano. Like, you would like, what would the world be like, "Oh, we gotta burn every instrument so you can't make music." Well, I still have my voice. There are still ways I can compose music without the digital space, and this is the hard truth that n some AI artists might not understand or might not grasp just at least now in this time of history, is that AI artists, people who haven't done art before or maybe are just practicing their art and they latch on to the software, the generative software. If they start and they excel their skills in that AI art software, they are limited to that software. Meaning if it becomes obsolete or something goes wrong or it's buggy or it stops working or it just gets old, their artistic expression, if they had exclusively continued in the AI art software, that is that's limited to that software. Whereas what I would do, what I would encourage people to do is, okay, maybe you want to use AI art as a tool, but if you really want to get good at your art, visual or otherwise, you need to go to the fundamentals of art. You need to go to what makes a good piece of art, a good piece of art, and practice that. You gotta sketch, you gotta outline, and this could be digital or physical, but it doesn't hurt to learn the physical media too. Like it really does not hurt to learn how to draw by hand before applying it into the digital space. But learn those skills, develop those skills so when something happens and AI is completely irrelevant, you would still have those skills to produce the art in other media, in other ways. So as I can say to you as a composer, if something happened where there was no more software in the world and I couldn't compose electronic music, I could still compose music. And even more than that, I could still play music. There's not going to be an AI generated sound engraver playing violin. No, the violin you hear is my violin. So that's the I would say a really the big misconception is this: you gotta adapt or die. It's AI now. You're gonna be much better than you ever were, that you ever could be because AI is gonna help you so well. It's like, well, what if that software becomes obsolete? What if in 5 years from now, no one's talking about AI and no one or worse for the AI artist? That's so hard to say, AI artist. Worse for them is maybe the stigma is going to continue to grow, and then people are going to recognize, like, well, we will actually just go back to the artist. Sorry, that's our first model. So anyway, yeah, people who are for AI art should not latch on to this argument saying, well, don't react so negatively to AI art because you're just reacting to that trend because it's been the same with digital art. When that came about, you just don't like new trends. It's like, well, no, let's make the distinction. AI art is machine generated. You didn't do it yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No matter how skilled you are in whatever AI software, you did not generate that image yourself. Sorry. So go back to the drawing, go back to the sketching, go back to the outlining, go back to the understanding angles and all the important fundamentals of visual art if you're a visual artist. And then as far as music creation, oh, please, composers who are just learning the craft of composition, please don't go to AI art. Don't go to the generation. Let's actually talk about a tangible, a real example for this. Maybe a couple if I feel inspired. Um, so, a lot of people, when they're talking about AI art, they're really talking about the visual aspect, illustration, painting, all of that stuff. But for music, let me give you one example. This might make sense when a little bit more concrete because AI music is still kind of crap. Some of it's kind of okay, but it's not anything an actual songwriter or an actual composer could produce. With visual art, a lot of people just latched onto visual art saying, "Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. That concept piece. Oh my gosh, I could create all this art now even though I couldn't sketch before or paint before or something like that." With music, it's actually easier to hear the distinction because the AI music that I've heard so far, people might say, "Oh, that's pretty good." But you know what? It's not on the level. AI music is not this on the same level as AI visual art because you won't hear the aural cues that really sucks a person in that wonderful aural music experience. The concept of beat, the concept of the turning of the phrase, the riff, the something that really catches your attention and really, you know, grabs you as far as the music experience. It's not quite there, and I don't think it's for another 3 years if it even continues to be a trend. But let me give you an example just in case people are kind of wondering, like, okay, you don't do any AI generation? How can you be so sure, Sound Engraver? Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example. There are plugins out there, whatever software, whatever DAW that you work in, that actually are specifically AI. So there are specific AI drum loops, not drum loops, excuse me. I'm making the distinction. Drum generators. So let's say you're pretty bad at making rhythm for your music, and believe me, I was for years. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it, but for a good 4 to 5 years, I didn't have the best sense of rhythm. I really couldn't compose rhythm in my electronic pieces. I'm gonna actually be so bold to say that it's taken me a good 8 to 9 years to even get a hold on excellent rhythm in my music. I can so what has helped me in the past? Usually I like in the first year or 2, I would just outline little kick drum beats and little snares and claps and stuff like that, and it would be pretty lame, but it was all I knew. Then I got into drum loops, that were already by default, presented to you in Logic Pro, and I would use those templates, and then as soon as I got the template down, then I would flesh out the structure of the piece, and then what I would do is take that template and really modify it and add things, take away things. But even so, those drum loops, the drummer tracks, as it is called in Logic Pro, they still sounded, even if the rhythm was there, it still sounded so hollow and so empty. Now, recently, as recent as last December, I came across drum loops. Well, I knew about drum loops, but like I never used them. Then I started really using them and really tweaking them and working them to the effect of good rhythmic composition. Now, people might say, "Wait a second, you're using drum loops. That's something that you did not compose. That's something that was pre-made for you." And yes, you would be right to say that. But I don't keep the drum loops in their original form. What I do is I take the loop and then I will chop up all the different instruments of that loop. Some I will throw away completely. I will make separate tracks for each of those instruments in that drum loop. And then I will modify not only the sound of those instruments if the sound doesn't work, but I will also add effects. And even more than that, I will actually uh, chop up the little selections of the drum loop and then actually not reverse them, but invert them, um, create little permutated models of the rhythm. So not every phrase, even not every 2 bars, not every 4 bars will be the same. There will be a little bit of variance with every bar. And you can also modify the drum loop with a change of swing. Like, is it more of a swung feel? Is it pretty metric? Does it sound like a computer? Can you humanize it? There are little techniques that can actually make it sound like it's a human drummer and not like a pre-made drum loop. But I never keep the original loop. Part of it is because there are sounds in those loops, a lot of those loops that I just don't care for. I just don't prefer. And so by the time you hear my finished product, you could probably hear up to 8 to 10 tracks easy with a highly variant and modified rhythmic kit from, yes, drum loops, but not just one drum loop per piece or per section of the piece. Sometimes I will work with 2 to 3 to 4 different kinds of loops working simultaneously to have a different effect from the original thing. And this can take days of work, sometimes not. I'm getting better at it. But initially, it took a good week of just getting that craft and getting that skill and stuff like that. And so, what does this have to do with AI? Well, some people would make the argument saying, "Well, you're working with pre-made stuff already. You're not composing this pre-made stuff." It's like, actually, I am changing a lot of things in the context of music composition, and these drum loops are not uh, like instantaneously generated by AI art or by AI generators. Now, people would say, "Wait, what's the difference between the result of the AI generation that is pre-made for you and the others?" Probably, I probably could modify the AI art. I keep saying AI art, AI generators. People say, "Well, you could just make a AI generated drum loop and then tweak it," and that is actually true. That is absolutely true. I haven't experienced myself, I probably won't. Uh, However, a lot of producers and maybe producers of drum loops too. Maybe this isn't the best example now that I'm thinking it out loud. A lot of producers actually would take the AI generated loop and just put it in and and then just leave it at that. I think in my experience of seeing producers work with drum loops, they're a little bit more intuitive and creative and they work more with how to rearrange the drum loop. Whereas maybe the AI generator will be like, "Hey, this is it." I'm like, "Wow, that sounds amazing." And yeah, it can be random, it can be variant in its own way, and it can be distinct from another person, another producer using the AI generator. But I actually with the AI generator, at least as far as principle is concerned, I actually like taking the drum loop and then just, like, taking snippets of it and then making a whole new thing with it. So maybe that's probably not the best example now that I think about it, but, at the same time, some people actually do well, actually, let me end that argument with this. Um, are drum loops, uh, like, stealing from people? Not so in a couple of ways. The first is drum loops are presets in Logic Pro. Drummer tracks also, and you can modify and change the drummer tracks as well. And then also people will sell you their drum loops. So people like for a price, an artist can sell his drum loops for X amount of dollars, and then you are licensed to use those drum loops like their own instruments and rhythmic kits and stuff like that. And so there is that transactional value saying, "Oh, this artist is selling his drum loops," or even just sound libraries in general. Some people will sell just high volume, high quantities of loops and one shots and stuff like that, where it's like, "Oh, here are your loops for like $30. You have like 300 loops to go through and stuff like that." And that's a transactional benefit to both parties saying, "Oh, let me be inspired. Let me give this person their money and then work with the loops themselves." So drum loops are people might call drum loops a cheat, and they have every right to say like, "Oh, that's kind of cheating." And like the for me in my compositional process, I I'm in the nitty-gritty of these drum loops so hard. I should probably do a video on drum loops just to show like what the kind of work that I do for such drum loops, and just to show you how much of how much it's derived of the original thing, and how much it doesn't sound like the original thing. So anyway, well, maybe I shouldn't have used that example. I don't know, but it's it's me thinking out loud. All right. But as far as concluding with that argument, the principle of buying a drum loop versus getting something that a computer generates might be more of a human element toward me because the drum loop actually was created by a human being, whereas the AI generated wasn't. Now people say, "Huh, if it sounds good, it doesn't matter." And that is again to each their own, but for me I would just prefer saying, "Well, this is a talented artist. Let me use his loop and I want to change it up a little bit, but for the AI art, for the AI generator of drum kits, I can really see where it might not be beneficial to me as someone in this process." All right, let's see. A couple other points that I wanted to say, and really actually probably one more point. And that is a phrase that I had heard over the, discourse, the people who are either in favor of AI art or who do not agree with AI art. And that is this phrase, the democratization of art. A lot of people who are in favor of art, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people I had seen who really did prefer AI art, they were for also the democratization of art. And what does that mean? It means people who are at a certain skill level of art that they're like a skill that they are not happy with are now really happy at the prospects of using AI to better their skills, possibly instantaneously. Now, I know people say, hey, it takes a long time to learn the software, this generator software. It takes a long time to learn the skills of the software. I'm like, okay, that's fair. But a lot of people have made the comment, like I've seen a slew of comments saying, I now can make art. You know, I've had all these ideas in my head and now I can put them on the page. I can make them as an image. I can write this as a story or something like that. Whatever the media is, whatever the art media is or medium I should say. They're like, "Wow, now I can finally get my ideas out there." Now, this is kind of a problem. I would say fundamentally a human problem. The thing is, no matter what skill level you're at in your art, if you have ideas in your head, you have to ascertain one crucial thing, and that is, okay, are you at the level where you can actually get that, where you can actually make that a tangible, physical, or digital example, even if it's rudimentary? Even if you're just starting or you're just not at that level, can you get the ideas down anyway? And my answer to that is, as an artist and as a teacher, you should. Even if you're not happy with your level, even if you're not satisfied, like, "Oh, that looks terrible," or "That's a horrible book. That's a horrible piece of screenplay. That's an awful, sculpture. That's an awful sketch. That's an awful image that I've produced." It's like, that actually doesn't matter at this point in your artistic stage, that shouldn't matter. You should practice to get your ideas out of your brain, out of your imagination, and you need to put it down. You need to put it on the page. You need to put it on your screen. A lot of people have this, and I hate to use the term because it's so cheaply used now, but this analysis paralysis is like, well, if it's not gonna be good enough, if it's not gonna be as good as I have it in my head, I'm not gonna bother with it. I'm not at that skill level. And I'm just gonna say the cold hard truth. It probably won't be as good as you have it in your head. That's just the reality of practicing and devoting yourself to the craft, even if it takes all your life. I see so many young people so dissatisfied with their skill level saying, I'm not good. I'm not this I'm not as good as this comic book writer. I'm not as good as this artist here. I'm not as good as this filmmaker here. I'm not as good as this musician here or this music artist here. It's like, that probably is true. You're probably not as good. And then they'll try to justify saying, "Well, I'll never be as good. I'll never be as good as the artist that I aspire to be. I'll never be like my favorite songwriter." And it's like, first of all, you don't know. You don't know until you've practiced. And people, especially young people, they want to be. It's pretty much an instinctive thing for a young person. Because I was this way as a violin player. I wanted to play all my favorite violin music at the age of 18. I wanted to perform in the concert hall by age 19. And if it wasn't 19, I'm done. I don't want to play violin anymore. That really was my mentality. I wanted to be at the peak of my violin performance at 19 years old. No joke. No joke. And I'm still getting better. I'm 36 years old and I'm still practicing. And I do not expect to be the level I want to be in music and in writing for my science fiction probably until I'm in my 40s. And that's okay. And if it's not in my 40s, if it's in my 60s, and if the Lord wills that I live a nice long life, even if it doesn't happen until way later in life and I'm an older person, much older person, that's okay. And a lot of young people have this, they struggle. They're like, I've got to be this good by 30 years old. got to be this successful by 30 years old. Artistically, financially, career-wise, it doesn't matter. Like there's this real weird pressure that young people have put on themselves saying, I have to be good now. I have to I have to be like my artist heroes now. And it's like, if you're not ready, if you're not willing to put in the years of work, not days, not weeks, not months, years, decades even, if you're not willing to make that endeavor and embark on that journey, can see why people would want to gravitate toward AI art, because I see it time and time again with AI art saying, "Oh, now's my chance to be good." But effectively what you're saying is, "I can't be good without AI art. I can't be good without the software." I wouldn't want you to put that on yourself as an artist. I want you to be good, but you've got to commit to 10 to 20 to 30 years of practice and practicing every day. This is my teacher, the teacher in me coming out, because I tell my students on a weekly basis, "Hey, you got to practice. Why aren't you practicing? Did you practice? I can tell you practice because you're much better at it this week. Oh, I could tell you didn't practice, and I could tell you didn't work on what I told you to work on because you're worse this week." Like I see this constantly, have this kind of feedback constantly as a teacher. And people just, I get it. It's the human nature in us to want to be gratified and satisfied with short-term results. But you have to start small. You have to start small, saying, "Okay, okay, my skills in this art form that I really, really love and I really want to be good at, it's rudimentary. It's at the elementary level, and I'm gonna be pretty sad if I can't look as good in 5 years like I want to. But okay, I'll put in the work for the next 5 years and see." And then maybe you're still not as good in 5 years from now, but you had been practicing every day. And then another 5 years, I'm like, "Okay, let's see where I'm at in another 5 years." And maybe even after 10 years of absolute devotion to your craft, you're still not quite satisfied, but you're so much happier in your skill set than had you been 10 years ago, because you had applied every day and every week, like, "Okay, how can I get good?" With my example, I'm very satisfied with where I am in music, but I could still be better. I can always be better, and I look forward to the next 10 years, to be honest. I'm looking forward to how I can challenge myself and say, like, "Okay, I'm here now. I can release music now. Where am I gonna be 10 years from now?" It's a very exciting prospect when you know what your practice of the previous years has done. With the same I could say with writing. The same I can't really say with SuperCollider. I wish I was better at SuperCollider than I am now, but that's just because I've the last few years of SuperCollider, I've been there have been months at a time where I have not been in SuperCollider, but maybe I'll just change my mindset and say, "Hey, you know what? The time I've spent in Logic Pro, the time I've spent on my violin, the time I spent in the craft of music composition, let's give SuperCollider a year stint, a 5-year stint of constant devotion to that software and see what I can churn up." Maybe there'll be breakthroughs, maybe there won't be, but at least I'll know where I should be. That's the thing with practice, by the way, guys, like with your art, you're gonna know where you're going to be after practicing a certain amount of time. And the instant gratification, I don't care how many people say, "Hey, it takes skill to work with the software of AI." It probably does. I'm not denying that. It probably is a learning curve to learn the AI generated software, but it's in no way the same as getting your hands dirty and going so deep in your craft. And the experience, I will say, is painful sometimes, but it's exhilarating sometimes. You will not get I promise you guys, as an artist, you will not get the level of satisfaction having had if something else had generated the result for you. No matter how good it looks, it's I'm sorry. Your minimal, limited abilities, however natural they are in your art, is so much better, so much unique. It's so much more unique to you as an individual. It's unique to your style and to your process as an individual. I'm speaking from my heart when I say this. No one people may copy your style. Let's say you got good. Let's say you get really good in 20 years from now in your style. People might copy your style, but they can't imitate you. They can't emulate you. You are unique to you. There's no other composer like me, for better or for worse. Some composers will always be better than me in the craft of music composition and production. Some people might not be, but whatever the case is, however comparable or incomparable, I have my own voice in music. It's the same with you in your art, and you cannot generate, pardon the pun, that same level of satisfaction if you have a machine doing it for you. This is, again, I want to be very clear. This is nothing against the digital space because your skill building in art can be transferred to the digital space with digital art and digital illustration and electronic music in my case. But at the very least, just trust that you can get better. And then to that, some people would say, well, but what if I never get good? What if I never get good? And you know what I say to that? So the first question was, what if I never get good enough? It's like you have to devote yourself to this art for years and years and years. It's a lifelong endeavor, guys. Sorry, there's no instant gratification for this. But let's say you're like, okay, I'm okay with this art stuff, but what if or no, I'm sorry. Okay, so that was the answer to the first question. What if I'm not good enough? You got to practice and you got to devote your time it's got to be decades long, guys. It's going to be decades long if you're really being honest with yourselves. But the second thing is, what if I can't get good? What if I can never make art? The first instinctual, just right off the bat answer I have for you as an artist myself is make it anyway, because nothing will replace the value of human creativity. If you can try to create something, if you can try to produce something, that in of itself is inherently so valuable. One second, I'm gonna cough for a second. So let's say you're kind of maybe you're in the case right now with low self-esteem as an artist, just saying there will not be any chance that I can be good. I'm just gonna say you have to make it anyway. Write that story down, draw that sketch, make that film, create that video game. Whatever the case is, do it anyway because the value of producing it on a human level, you did it, not anything else. You made something. And maybe it won't be good. It doesn't matter. The value of creating and making and producing and fashioning and practicing in and of itself is a personally invaluable human endeavor. And by that alone, you need to make it yourself because you're important. You are a human being with these ideas. Try to do your best, but your best has to come with years of practice. Sorry, guys, that's the cold hard truth. And I'm going to go back to the democratization of art. So I was like, what does this have to do with the democratization of art? It's when people are using AI as the prospects of being good, short-term good. Like, hey, I can save years of practice by producing this with an AI generator. And why I say democratization is people say, oh wait, now we can all be artists. I wasn't good at drawing until now. I wasn't good at composing until now, but now I have help. I have something that can really flesh out my ideas and really just show people what I've been thinking all these years. And so what you're seeing with AI art is a lot of people who support this democracy. Like it's equal opportunity, guys. It's equal opportunity for all these people now who couldn't do art before. Now, I say this very carefully, but I'm going to say it anyway. I need to actually see if the audio is good. Okay, good. Audio is good. I say this really carefully because a lot of people who are for AI art would be against me saying, "Don't use AI art because I'm inhibiting you as a person of expression and creativity." Like, "You can't take my AI art away from me because then you're gonna inhibit me, you're gonna prohibit me from creating art, and how dare you?" And a lot of people have said then with this idea, like, "Don't take my AI art. Don't take my away my creativity. Uh, don't inhibit me, don't prohibit me." That they're gonna say this, they're gonna use this word. I've heard it a few times now, and that is, we don't want art to be elite. We don't want art to suffer elitism. I've heard this and I was shocked when I heard it because I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." First of all, I don't think that's a fair term to use for art. Second of all is, let's say, guys, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm sorry. But let's say you ask the question, "What if I'm never good enough?" And I tell you my first answer, "Make it anyway." And then you're not happy with that. It's like, "What if I live my whole life not making the art I want?" The cold reality of it is, then that's the way it is. Art is something that some people naturally have to make. You can't be an all-star basketball player if you just don't have the natural ability. Not everyone could be a pro athlete. Not everyone has the natural ability to have that athleticism of an Olympic player or even just a pro athlete. I'm just yeah, we'll go down and we'll go down to being just a professional athlete. There are some people who just don't have the coordination, don't have the physical stamina. I see 1 second. I see a little bit of a Wi-Fi thing. Am I good? Did I disconnect? I'm gonna go down, all the way down to these comments. Okay, should be good. Oh, okay, it's all good. All right, so what was I saying? I'm gonna repeat that again, actually, because it's too important to say. If someone asks me, someone who's for AI art says, "You know what? I tried to make it. I'm still not happy. What if I never am good? What if I never spend my whole life doing this and I never make the art I want to make?" The reality of it is you might not, because some people have the natural ability, the artistic ability, the sensibility, the intuition. Yes, yes, it has it hasn't been equally distributed. I'm sorry, guys. Like, art as far as natural abilities has not, like with anything, with an engineer mindset, with a mathematical mindset, not mindset, that's a stupid word. With I was not endowed by my creator with a highly mathematical genius mind. Some people are mathematical geniuses. It's not equal in that respect. And the same is true for art. Some people have the musical ability, the artistic ability, that that ability to create art naturally and faster than most all the world. It's not fair in that sense. It's not equal in that sense. And a lot of people might not realize, people who support AI art might not realize that what they're doing is actually equalizing art. They're saying we need art available to do and to produce for everyone, not just for the privileged few, not just for the select few who are naturally good at it. And I'm going to give you kind of a strange hypothetical. And after this, we'll go into the thank you, my prof. My audio is still good. Before I get into the chat, 1 second. I'm going to give you a hypothetical, a very strange one, but it's an important one to make, and that is people who say, "Wait, we need to make art and art production equal to everyone, no matter what the limitations of their skill is." I'm like, okay, well, let's really blow it out of proportion. Let's say that everyone is given the ability to produce art at the level that they want to produce. It doesn't matter what art, sculpting, painting, music making. And then let's say in the future, let's say AI really takes over. I don't think it will be, but I'm just giving you the hypothetical. That software and development is produced on such extreme levels where you can be instantly the best painter out there. Like you've got your style, you know the best art to make, the best your software has created for you the ability to just mass produce the most epic paintings, the epic sci-fi concept pieces and stuff like that. And then your friend can sculpt or illustrate on the same level as you can paint, like you're a good digital painter or whatever. And he's producing, mass producing these sculptures and really cool kinetic sculptures, even for instance. And you got another friend who is just a fabulous song maker, a songwriter because of the software that she's using, the generating software she's using. And then it's a Monday. You're like, okay, I I don't want to be a painter every single day of the week. I want to be a photographer on Tuesday. And then someone else says like, okay, I want to be an architect on Wednesday, like a master architect. You see where I'm going with this? If technology got so advanced and so crazy, just insane, where anyone can choose at any point, at any day of the week, to be any artist they wanted to be. Photographer Tuesday, sculptor Wednesday, architect Thursday. And then it's like, what does that what is that doing to art, guys? It's rendering everything meaningless, because no matter how beautiful the architect piece is, no matter how beautiful the painting, no matter how invigorating the story, the compelling film and all that, no matter what it is, everyone can do it, and you lose the ability to have that like transcending human experience, to be inspired by quality you can't produce yourself, but you could be inspired by. If everything was top tier, high quality art, but that was generated by an AI and that was mass produced because on a whim, you're like, well, tonight I'm just gonna I don't want to be a photographer tonight. I'm gonna, you know what? Let me go back to painting. Let me do more painting. It's like, what? It's like, where are the skills? Where's the inspiration? Where's the blood, sweat, and tears and toil behind that art piece? It's no more. It's rendered pointless now because everyone can do it. Now, that was a crazy hypothetical. But why I say that is it's it's okay if not everyone can produce art. Because where I'm inspired by is something like an opera singer whose voice just transcends all that experience I have from the everyday life, from the mundane. I'm hearing this beautiful soprano's voice, and it's like, wow, she can sing. Oh my goodness, she can sing. I would never have that voice like that. There's no way I can have a voice like that. But does that make me sad because I could never have a voice like that? No, I'm super inspired by the experience of this soprano's voice. And I think it needs to be the same with every single person who listens to music, who works in art, to be inspired by their heroes, no question, and to work hard to produce to that level. And even if they can't, it doesn't matter. Even if they can't produce anyway, you'll find yourself as an artist building your skills over the length of time, over the length of years, saying, you know what, I didn't get to Graham Nolan levels of graphic art, graphic novels and comics and stuff like that, but I got my own style. I was inspired by him and I got my own style because of it. Maybe it's not even on his level, on his tier. Maybe it's not on the level of my favorite writer, my favorite author. Maybe Sound Engraver, will never produce the same level of awesome music as Stefan Torto or even Dream Theater. I would love to be Jordan Rudess levels of violin playing as he is on his keyboard, or John Petrucci. I may never be Petrucci levels of violin playing and violin making as he is on his guitar. And that's okay. I could still be inspired by him. Uh, I will always be inspired by a band, by the likes of Dream Theater. Never thinking I would ever exceed their level of performance because they're pretty awesome. Or even their production levels. And some of their production is really, really good, but that's okay. And so I'm saying down with the democratization of art, down with making everything equal among like equal opportunity in art is not a good thing. I think equal opportunity would get to I would say homogenous not get to this point where all art is homogenous. It's all the same, it's all generic, and everyone can do it. And so if everyone can do it on the same tier level of even high quality, like even if it's good looking, it will render all art meaningless because it will nullify that fundamental transcendental human experience, if that makes sense. That's how I see art, guys. I know it's a strong opinion, but art is very meaningful. And if we equalize it and democratize it where everyone can produce art, then it's not going to be meaningful and it's not going to be inspirational. So trust your skills, trust your aspirations. Say, I want to write like this guy. I want to compose like this person. I want to sing like this girl, like just aspire to be like that. Work hard and then you will find it. You don't need AI to assist you. You need you to assist yourself. Maybe hire a teacher, hire an instructor. I'm a music instructor. That's my profession. And I love teaching music. I absolutely love teaching music. It is so beneficial to me to teach music. I'm very grateful for my profession. And I know not every student will be an aspiring violinist like moi, but it's still a beautiful, beneficial vocation, and I want the same for you. So get good at art. Don't have AI as your assistants. If you want to use AI as a tool and then really work to have a human experience and process like from that, like even if I won't, but even if someone gave me a drum generator, like, hey, here's an AI drum generator, here's an AI synthesizer, like synthesizing coming up with all these sounds, I'm like, I prefer to do it myself. But even if you did as a composer use that as a tool or as an artist you used an AI tool, just be really careful. Here's my final point before going into the chat. This is gonna be a long stream. Are you guys ready for that? I don't have to work tomorrow, so it's okay. But I wanted to say that the most important thing about choosing to use AI art or not choosing to use AI art is the uniqueness of your own style and your voice. If you do not choose to use AI art, you might not be, quote, as good, unquote, as you want to be in the future. That may happen. That absolutely might be a hard, cold reality. But you're still unique to you. It's still your style. It's still, oh, you know what? I recognize that illustration. That is so-and-so's. That's very unique to his style. That's what's going to happen when you do not have AI-assisted generators to help you with that. Because AI is a derivative of all previous input. Now, we can be inspired by people's styles. We can gravitate and say, "Oh, I love that artist's style. I want to model my painting after him." But you do the work. You work. You work to say, "You know what? He does colors this way. He does lighting and shading this way. I want to follow that example." But you put in the practice. Don't have AI do it for you. Anyway, because again, I promise I'm done after this rant, but you're your own person. And I promise you guys, after years of devoting yourself to your craft, you're going to find that no one can imitate your style, no matter how close their style is to yours. Even if they follow you as an example, no one can imitate you. You are unique to you. And even more, your own artistic experience is unique to you. So anyway, before I get back into the chat, let me take a quick break and put on, let's do another piece of music. I don't have actually a huge selection. I have like three people. No, I have three music pieces. I need to continue adding to the library. But let me go ahead and add this. 1 second. And I'll be back in a few minutes. All right. Thank you for letting me have that break. Yeah, let's get to the comments because I feel like this, if I'm not careful about this topic, it could be like a 4-hour stream. So let's see where oh man, we're going to go through the comments. So we've got a lot to say, don't we? Let's see. I think we'll let's see. We'll start with Brian Gilmartin's comment at 6:07. One of the big problems. You guys can hear me, right? I'm sure I'm fine. I think I'm good, right? Check, check, check. Well, I hear myself. Okay. Never can tell. Never can tell. But okay. Okay, so I lost my comments. It was Brian Gilmartin's comment. What was that? Oh, so you say one of the big problems with AI art is that it plays very much into the corporate mindset of quantity over quality. And I think people may not understand this. They might not grasp that a lot of these developers and these systems are really, I mean, I'm not against capitalism, but they could be there to make a profit, saying, "Oh, let's give you this transaction piece so you can do what you want to, just start creating good, quote unquote, images." And it is, if you're not careful, That's the thing is, like, if you can produce a piece of art really quickly, well, of course, what's gonna happen is or not just you, but a number of people will produce on this prolific scale where it's like, it's just too much. It's just information overload. And I would say too, like, there's just something inherently beautiful about time. Like, the passage of time over like, so you're 20 years old now, and then you're gonna be a different artist 30 years, as a 30-year-old, or even as, 30 years from now, as a 50-year-old. So, I mean, I think people again, I'll just say that people shouldn't be afraid of just things taking time, things taking a very it's very slow. It's a very slow process, but you might find that you are personally satisfied. And it does all this to say what Brian is saying is it will push you further and further away from that corporatism that is taking hold. So, all right. Now, as far as like, I think I saw in the comments somewhere, do I think AI is evil? No, I'm not like I'm not against AI in that sense. I don't think it's going to be out of control as people say it is. I mean, if it is, well, then I've got, I don't think humanity is any more peril than it is with just really powerful corrupt people. So, I'm not worried about the evilness of AI. Really, anything ethically speaking on AI, as far as, is this corrupt? Is this bad? Is this morally wrong? That has to do with the user of the AI, not the AI itself. I don't think AI will develop itself into a sentient being. It doesn't have any comprehension of morality. It's just feeding and learning, any input it's receiving. So any corruption, I would say, any ethical issue, I would say, of AI art is the user or the developer behind the art. So you can use your tools for evil, but the tools themselves in and of themselves are not evil. Yeah, it's not like a HAL 9000 from some 2001: Space Odyssey, as Ghost Planet might say. So yeah, that's a great story. If you've never read Space Odyssey, 2001: Space Odyssey, it's a really good book. Leonard Harker says that I am right that it isn't copyrighted. Okay. If AI can create its own art without data, then it would be self-aware and in turn catastrophic. Survival is the most basic tenet for once that happens. Yeah, I think human beings would have the instinct to preserve their own lives and their families' lives. Let's see. Andreas Hernandez, welcome. You say there's a manga anime called Bakuman that describes art as a unique expression. When you look at a work of art, you can say it is good, but what specific artist, who specifically made it. Yeah, yeah. Again, we can always be inspired and even imitate different styles uh, for who just like, oh, I love that. That's my favorite artist in this way, and I want to create like she creates. I want to and sculpt like he sculpts and stuff like that. We totally take from inspiration, but we don't take. We don't. We're not soulless. You know, examples of oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I even without AI, I just would say to take someone's image and then just, like, filter it with a different color and then call it mine. And I know that sounds really cheap. That sounds really cheap. But in the same way, it's kinda like, well, I'm inspired by this person's art, so I blurred it a little bit. I changed the color filter, and then maybe I'll use that model and then just, like, change the face because I know how to change faces or something like that. It's like, can you just like, can you actually copy the image? And I mean copy, like, take the image and then in your digital software or in your physical medium, like on a, you know, table, with paper, can you actually eh, replicate that image? And maybe you're eyeballing it and stuff like that. I was like, and then it'll be similar to that image, or maybe it'll be like almost identical. And then you'd be pretty skillful, skillful for sure. But if you can't, like, don't just, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to go on a rant. But yes, Andreas Hernandez, you are right that people do understand a person's work, and that's what makes it special. Megatron says, yeah, the great thing about being an artist is that it's all about constant self-improvement. You never stop learning skill because always a you need to climb. Exactly right. Like no matter how old you get, like let's say you're still able to produce something, like you're not encumbered by something like major arthritis or something like that, that where you can still draw. Or maybe if you have arthritis and then you've translated your ability to draw, you've transferred that skill to some software that allows you to have that eye and that understanding of drawing, and you're like 80 years old and you're still amazing at what you do. It's like, and you can be better. You like, think of all the artists who are still. I knew a musician, I knew a trombone player. He was he would be 90 now, now that I think about it. I saw him, like, 10 years ago. Yeah, he was, like, 83, 82 or 3 years old, and he's an amazing trombonist. Like, he was doing the trombone at 82 years old when I last saw him, and he was a professional. I was like, "Dang, you've got some lungs for an 82-year-old," and he was such a good musician, down to earth, and he was always at that artist in residence, and he was in his 80s. Like, people shouldn't think their peak of performance is, well, unless you're an athlete, like a physical performance, but the peak of your artistic performance doesn't ever, you never reach it, if that makes sense. Like, if you're constantly devoted to your craft, you're always going to get better. That's the beautiful thing. I mean, I guess you could make yourself worse by practicing the wrong thing, but nah, highly unlikely. Like, my violin students, I have to get on them for proper technique, because if they have bad technique, then yes, practicing bad technique will worsen them. But no, I mean, as far as being in your art, I guess you could practice bad technique in some level. So that's where you need instruction. But that's where we have YouTube. So or pay an instructor. Like yeah. So uh ring Ring of Edwin, welcome. Wow, you got started early. So this comment was 6:15. I usually actually start 5:45. I usually start a quarter to 6. Yeah. Yeah, actually, so Andres also points out that when you watch a Tarantino movie, you know it's Tarantino. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the thing, is you have your own signature. I've seen people who have sketched their own stuff and then translated that through AI generation. It's like you've lost your signature, because now the AI generation looks like it looks good, but it's not your own signature. It's not your own voice. And I think people miss that. Like, oh, wow, that looks way better than my sketch. I'm like, but your sketch was you. That's the whole point. I would prefer to see your own sketches of things, even if it's a couple levels lower than the AI rendition of that thing? Anyway, Megatron says, "No, AI art is not the same at all as digital art. As someone who's tried digital, there's a much of a learning curve." Yeah, yeah, it's again, someone pointed out as, what's his name? The Art Mentor. He's a YouTube channel that I came across today. He called it a set of transferable skills. Like, what you know about art will be transferred into the digital art space. It's not like digital art in general is not going to produce the art for you. It's still its own medium. Uh, Whereas AI will do the work for you. Yeah. Ghost Planet makes a really good point, saying science fiction and great stories show the dangers of AI, AI in general. Yeah, I would say AI always makes for great fiction. It is still a level of speculation though that we're in. A lot, let's see. Oh gosh, I was just thinking of that. I came across a really good example. Oh yeah, yeah. Like for all there's so much social political commentary on the figurehead Elon Musk, and I don't really know him as a person, so I'm not going to comment like whether I'm for what he says or against what he says. But there's this one time I do know that he's a I don't know if he believes it now, but like he did express years back where he believes this whole universe is a simulation of something. And it's like, if you think about it, like no one would have had that idea had it not been something like the Matrix or some piece of fiction. Like you're only believing that because it's already been an idea before you. Now people might say, hey, that's religion anyway. It's like, yeah, that's true, but it's like, you know the whole AI being a danger, like a sentient danger. Again, I don't believe the AI itself is evil, but evil users, kind of like Tron, right? Evil users can manipulate the program and put it to dangerous use. So again, it's the people we have to worry about. It's not the AI itself. Leonard Harker says, I feel the most accurate future of an AI dependent world is Armored Core series. Later generations evolved more dependent to it, then lost their capacity to be creative or think critically. That's kind of scary, but that's a great premise. That's a wonderful fictional premise. Kind of like a body losing its ability to naturally rest because of melatonin. Oh man, I read a short story. I can't remember who did it. Who wrote the story. It was when I was still subscribed to analog short stories. I don't subscribe to those anymore because the stories have been pretty bad when I last looked at them. But anyway, it was about this constant, like, the society was on melatonin addiction, like this real drug, because it's all about being productive, guys. It's all about being productive, and like they would do these crazy, like weird, hyper crazy drug dances to get the body constantly stimulated because it's fighting a natural need for sleep. And I remember reading that story before bed, and I was almost crying for the protagonist because it's like, we want sleep. Our body needs sleep, and but if people say, "No, no, we gotta get the extra time. We don't have extra time in our lives. Our lives are short. We need the extra time. We gotta develop this drug where our bodies will be up all the time." And it's like, no, that's crazy freaky. You know, we need sleep, but sleep also feels great. All right. Continuing on, let's see. Leonard Harker says you learn art faster physically because you have less leeway to make mistakes. The bigger the weight, the stronger you become. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I composed music. I wrote music like on the page before I put it in notation software, and then and I could still compose writing it by hand, but I can put it in notation software, and then I just started working with MIDI blocks with synthesizers. Oh, one thing too I will never do as a composer, I'll get back to the comments, but um, it's not really AI, but it's kind of AI equivalent, and that is MIDI chords. And so you can purchase like for what, $10, all these sample packs that are chords for you. Like if you have a digital audio workstation and like here are these chords. Oh wow, man, bro, they sound so good. It's like, why don't you just compose the chords? Just compose the chords. Don't buy prepackaged chord progressions. Gosh. Learn to do it yourself. Like don't buy MIDI chords, guys. If you're those of you who are into music, just create your own chords. And if you're not good at it, just practice and you'll get good. And you can do that in Logic Pro, any digital software or a digital audio workstation, or write it out by hand. Write your chords by hand. That's fine too. Hello, Dwayne Asher. Welcome. So yeah, I did just answer your question. No, I don't think AI is evil. Video games aren't evil. I don't know about anime because I don't follow anime. The art itself, no, none of these things are evil. It's just what people do with it. And Megatron actually answers pretty well. So it's not evil; it's just soulless. And I think a lot of people are kind of they see the AI art that's out there, and granted, it looks fine, like it looks good, but you know it's AI. People are like, "Hey, you don't know it's AI. How can you tell?" It's like you just know. It's like a sixth sense, you know. It's like if some art, let's say I said I react to an art piece and I'm like, oh, that looks like AI, and like the original artist got back to me. It's like, no, no, dude, that's my piece. Like, and I didn't use AI for that. Like, that's my style. Like, oh, we start changing styles because it looks like AI. Megatron says, it took me my whole life to get to where I am as an artist without schools or classes. Wow. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't take me nearly as long to learn how an AI program works. That's fair. Well, the thing is, like the software, the AI software is just software. That's any software. Any software, AI or not, is a learning curve. So I guess that's what I meant by a learning curve. Slow and steady does win the race. You are right. Welcome, Private Eye. Good to see you. Yeah, that's the funny thing about a skill. You never stop learning. You never stop learning. If you stop learning, you need to stop that and continue learning. Because it's always progress. It's always a process. And that's what makes it great. That's what makes it unique. And that's what makes it your journey. It's awesome. Leonard Harker says the problem is that if you don't want to do the work to become an artist, then maybe it wasn't meant to be. Everyone is an artist, but not in the same fields. In the same fields. Yeah, it's like okay, I would love. So if I was given a wish, like if I was granted a wish saying, "Hey, if you were any other kind of artist, what would you be?" It would probably be a concept artist. A digital concept artist because it's like there are some like beautiful sci-fi concept pieces that I would love to generate myself, but I just know that's not going to be my future. That's just not going to be. I can see it from a distance. I can appreciate someone else doing it, but it's not me, and I'm okay with that. It's like, but I want to generate my own sci-fi concept pieces. It's like that's never going to happen for me. I'm going to hire a person to do that for me, and that's how it's going to be because that's the way the ball bounces, guys. You can't be everything you want to be. That's actually a kind of a yeah, maybe a feminist thing or a female empowerment thing, but it's just a general cultural thing. How, especially they get to the kids and say, you can be whatever you want to be. It's like, that's actually not true. You can choose something and home in on it and then be good at it, but you can't be anything you want to be. That's just absolutely not the truth. And that's okay. It's okay that you're not everything you want to be. Just choose a couple of things, get really good at it, and you'll be fine. You'll be happy. That's the thing. Is if you choose something like let's say you come up to this fork in the road and you're like, "You know what? I'm really not this, but I am this, and I'll be better at this. I'm happy with just being this one thing." Honestly, I think a lot of people would be really happy with just that. Being good at something is good enough. You know what I mean? So, anyway, continuing on. You just reminded me, I had a thought of giving up drawing at one point until one day when I submitted my drawings to be shown on an art stream on Twitch. You continue. Suffice to say, I got a positive reaction from the streamer and the chat, which inspired me to keep doing it. I even drew up 2 more characters that had been in my head for a while. Wonderful. I think it's okay to like take a break or reconsider where your talents lie or what you want to do. And I will say, I'll give you a little bit of a warning. If you pursue more than one artistic endeavor, your time will be split. My time is split in 3 or 4 different ways with my music composition, my practicing the violin, and then my writing science fiction. So music and violin, they're the same things, but they do take each of them have their own allotted time. And then there'll be a marriage of the 2, like with my electronic music and violin playing, that's fine. But sci-fi writing is completely different from my music, and I feel like my electronic music will, kinda complement my sci-fi work in the future, absolutely, no question. I think actually sci-fi and electronic music is pretty similar as far as, the feel of it for sure, no question, at least in my experience. But, even so, they're completely different art forms. And so, like, the time allotted to my music composition is really specific because then I'll want a very specific amount of time allotted to my writing. And so, if you have just one thing you're good at, that's awesome because you'll have more time for that one thing. And then, even between Logic Pro and SuperCollider, they are completely 2 different software pieces, completely different learning curves. And I do have to say, hey, okay, 30 minutes here in SuperCollider, an hour here in Logic Pro, or backwards. So Megatron says one thing that helped me spend 1 month just working on one specific area in your art that needs refining. Yeah, I think I've experienced that too. For example, I spent a whole month working on one point perspective. Cool. Yeah, very insightful. Good job. Good job. I'm just curious, Metatron, if I get to your comments below, but wow, this is almost a 2-hour stream. See, this is how important AI art and the discussion is to me. Usually my streams are like 90 minutes, but we are getting to 2 hours. Um, but I'm curious, Metatron, how long you've been working on your art. That'd be interesting to know. See, continuing down. Yeah, also, yeah, actually Metatron or I said Metatron, sorry. Megatron. You also say just focus on being the best you can. Don't compare yourself to others, otherwise you would never get anywhere you want to be. I would say just compare if you do compare yourself to others, it's to be inspired by that particular style. Because I have many artists in the electronic music arena where I am very much inspired by their style and their approach and their instrumentation, and I'd like to continue not sounding like them, like it's theirs, but to like, oh yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. So that's more when you compare yourself to other people, it's to be inspired by those people. Not to say, oh, I'll never be able to be as good as them or something like that. That's where it's dangerous for sure. Um Brian, and this actually is worth posting right here. This is real. This is so real. If you were no good at drawing without the AI, you're still no good with it. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, and actually to use that wonderful quote by Tony Stark, like if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. Yeah. By the way, your avatar is really funny, stunning, and brave, Metatron. I keep calling you Metatron. Megatron. Excuse me. Uh, yeah, and you're right. We want art to be human. Exactly that. Yep. Dwayne Asher says, I make stories and some of them aren't as good as they are in my head, but I guess but I never give up on now because you have storylines and you're happy with this. And not only that, I'll say this too, if it's any encouragement to you or to anyone else, put it down anyway, because the more you practice, the more you're going to develop things that you wouldn't have in your head. This is very true. Like with my music, is like when I put it down in the actual workspace, it's like, oh, gee, this is better than what I had in my head. Yeah, let's do it. It's very exciting when that happens. And you say I'd rather be stuck at the kindergarten level art my whole life than bore myself with death typing in descriptive words or whatever into the AI program. Yeah, I'm not familiar with how that works, but I guess it's like a lot of word prompts and stuff. And like I'll be really careful in saying this. I don't think I would use AI art in this way, but I'm not against this kinda use of AI. Man, I don't know. Maybe not, I don't know. See, like, I'm a sci-fi writer, but I'm not a concept artist, so, like, if my main body of work is the writing, is the stories, is the actual novel, then maybe I could be better at AI for generating a book cover. Maybe that, I would use that, but I still don't know. I really don't know. And I don't know yet if I would do that, if that helps. Being real honest here. Wow, so many comments. Well, okay. Oh, let's see. Definitely before 8. Like, okay, it's almost 8 o'clock. Oh my gosh. We got we got date night. Prof and me, my husband and me. So I'll try to go through the comments as fast as possible. Metatron says equal, so like being equal with equal opportunities with art. You just need $10 and a dollars, pencils, and a sketchbook. We have phones, computers, the online tutorials everywhere. No excuses. Just start drawing. Exactly. Private Eye says, I've always battled my own self-esteem when it comes to trying to be a comic artist for years. Even today, I still want to do it, but I always come back to the you're not that good, and I feel afraid. The fear does that's a reasonable reaction. I even have older relatives that experience that same thing, and let's say I'm in that position. So let's say I'm in your position, Private Eye, where I'm like, you know what? I'm still not at that level I want to be. And with you with comic book creation, that's a whole different animal because you're working with many different artistic departments there. And I don't have to cover that because you guys no doubt follow young Ripa and maybe his contemporaries there who, like Razor Fist. There are many skills that go into the actual comic book, and for that, my recommendation is where can you get better? Where can you spend the most time? And then where can you invest in hiring an artist? Whether that's the writer or the actual visual artist, or a number of them, depending on your goals there. Yeah, I can see where that can be really frustrating, but it's still important to I would say right there then, yeah, if you find yourself in that predicament, ask yourself this honest question. Do you want to be that artor who wants to do everything good? Because that's also even if you're a really good artist, that's not everyone. Not everyone can do all art. Like I gotta be like so if you're a composer, like I gotta write the opera, I've gotta write the lyrics of the opera, I gotta do this the scenery and the staging and all that. I gotta do all of it. It's like you could, or you could hire all the people to do all the other stuff for you and you just focus on the music. If I were given that position, I'm like, I don't need to do the staging. I don't need to do the set pieces. I don't need to do the libretto or the lyrics or something like that. I'll just focus on the music and then I'll hire a songwriter or a librettist and they'll do the words and I'll hire another person in the art department who will do the staging. And you really have to be honest saying, what can I give up? What can I give up and hire another artist for? That's an honest question. Some people don't like that. Like, no, I want to be the comic book writer and the artist. It's like, well, what's more important to you? Is it more important that you write the story and then you hire an artist, or is it more important that you make the art and then hire someone to write the story? And so that's for comic books and graphic novels, but I could see where the predicament could really lower someone's self-esteem. Yeah, yeah, and so you're saying, just to be clear, you do want so Private Eye does say, you want to do, comics no matter what the industry is, yeah. Yeah. Chigwa says, "Your hypothetical reminds me of the Twilight episode. If everyone is beautiful, is there truly beauty?" I actually am thinking of, uh, maybe writing a short story, just a real short story on that hypothetical, because I have, an idea for that, but yeah, exactly, it's like yeah. Um, I had heard I don't really, follow many of the YouTubers anymore. I mean, really the only guy I follow on a frequent basis is Young Ripa, but I had followed Shadiversity for some time, Um, and I've kind of lost track about, with the pop culture stuff. So I don't really follow these people anymore because I just don't follow pop culture anymore. But I think I think I do follow him when he's working on his own original stuff because when he does live streams on his own stuff, it's actually pretty inspiring. I do understand he is for AI, and it's something that I wouldn't see eye to eye with him on that. But on creativity, he had one at one point. I'm going to say this because it really stuck in my head, and it's just I would reconsider this if I were him. But he had said on one point that he wants in his sci-fi stuff like really attractive characters, both men and women, and that's fine. Like awesome. Make your ladies pretty and make your your male characters ripped. That's fine. But I think he went so far as to say that in his world everyone would be that because like the technology and the nutrition and everything involved in such a hyper advanced society could make everyone beautiful and young and stuff. Now, that's an interesting concept, except one thing. The reason why we are attracted to beautiful women and beautiful, handsome men, like athletic men and stuff like that, and athletic women, is because it's meeting an ideal. So when you see like a 9 or a 10 walking down the street, you could be jealous or you could be inspired. It's like, whoa, they really eat healthy, or they really go to the gym, or they really work out, and man, she's 44. Wow, she looks 30. She looks 24. It's like her body's amazing. His body's amazing. It's like it's an ideal we aspire to be. And so even in a fictitious sci-fi world where everyone's beautiful, it's like, well, no, you're depleting. Or not depleting. You're deleting that ideal. I really think there should be very lovely characters in fiction and handsome characters in fiction, and then there should be average characters in fiction, and even plain characters in fiction, and even ugly characters in fiction. I mean, you, beautiful women and beautiful handsome men are ideal like images of what we aspire to be. So if everyone looked like that, it really would take away from what the ideal is anyway. So anyway, I don't think he's listening, but I do remember him saying something like that, like no, not every character should be physically beautiful, even if it was a hyper advanced society. Speed Racer, welcome. AI art is scary. It's a sign of just how much we're willing to entrust to a machine rather than letting our own creativity prevail. Yeah, I think human experience trumps anything machine related. And I love computers. I love SuperCollider. I love Logic Pro. So I love working in the digital space, and I can say as much. All right. And Private Eye is mentioning the country he lives in doesn't really have this kind of industry, but there's always someone in like some legendary artist out there. That's cool. It's cool. All right. Prof. Yes, you say the much needed thing, and that is no one deserves to be an artist. No one deserves help to be an artist. Art is at least 50% craft. Put down the AI. Roll up your sleeves and get to work, folks. Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, you don't deserve to be an artist if you don't want to put in the time. Like there's a little bit of truth to the phrase "no pain, no gain," and it doesn't have to be physical pain. Don't overexert yourself or whatever. Don't lose sleep over it. But like there's a level without the physical blood, sweat, and tears. There is a level of toil that goes into getting good for sure. All right. Oh, Samuel Proctor, welcome. Man, 7:10. I gotta catch up with comments. I probably will have to wrap it up within the next 10 or so minutes. But don't go anywhere. As an artist, I toyed with AI art out of curiosity, but will never use it for art. There is one use of the text AI, though there is one use of the text AI that I've found very useful as a historical search engine. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Brian Gilmartin says, "You've hit on something big here. I draw much of my inspiration from, oh, forgive me if I don't pronounce his name right, Patrick Spezzanti, who drew many of the Archie's. Oh, Prof would know this. Archie Sonic for Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comments for many years. Although I consider myself a ways away from matching his skill, I've developed my own distinct style, exactly, which Wolf 10 Media described as animated like, but also with a Western sensibility. Perfect. Perfect. Like someone can create a blurb of your art with that description. That's perfect. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, let's continue on down. Let's see. There are some comments toward me that I can't remember the context, so I'll probably skip. Sam Refractor says, stop learning. Sound 2020. Yeah, don't stop learning. Stop it if you are. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, and you make the practical point. Samuel Proctor is like, we can't all become an expert in everything we like. Exactly. It, I feel like people have a problem with that too. Now that AI has kind of like made people think, well, if I could do this, I could do this. We'll see. We shall see. All right, scroll on down just a little bit. Hey, Coffee, nice to see you. All right, scrolling just a little bit. All right, yay. All right. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's a good point. Leonard Harker says variety is the spice of life. Sorry. Yeah, Samuel Proctor talks about Shad's novel, which I think, yeah, he's done his novel. I think I'm talking about like things he wants to do if in the future with science fiction. Mike Miller's drawing for his adaptation of it is really good. I've seen those illustrations. I've seen. It's not my favorite uh genre, so I wouldn't probably read that novel. But if he did like space fantasy and stuff like that, I'd probably take a look at it. Um, right. Okay, so wow, whoo, 2 hours, guys. That's been a long time. I haven't done a 2-hour stream in a very long time. But I mean, this, even with all this description, I feel like I haven't talked about everything. But it's a lot to talk about, and it's not really appropriate for a live stream to cover everything. That is, of the AI art debate. Man, that's hard to say. AI art, AI art. So hard to say, but I'm not gonna call it art. I'm just gonna call it AI art. I think we need to make that distinction. But in any case, we'll wrap it up there. I think we said what we needed to say, and if there's more to say, then that'll be another stream or another video. Um, Still getting caught up with things like house projects and things like legally changing my name and stuff, making sure that's taken care of. So I still want to do YouTube. If anything, I probably will do a super collider video. I do have some things I can work on. I have a good 3 videos in the queue for that to work on. Or maybe even working with drum loops, like finding different drum loops and working with that. I think now that I've talked about drum loops and saying, "Hey, you're not doing AI, but you're doing drum loops. It's the same thing." I'm like, "Well, I'll show you my process." So maybe I should do that. Yeah, I've been meaning to do drum loops anyway because it really was a huge creative breakthrough for me. So if I do something, it's either gonna be Super Collider or drum loops, and I'd really like to do it this week. If not this week, next week. November will be a busy month, even though the wedding is done and we're back in the routine. It's a lot of catch up, and it's a lot of and mustard. No. It's a lot of house projects getting done. So I hope to do YouTube a lot more frequently than just live streams, but just kind of bear with me if you do see videos of snippets, that's fine too. But I will um I think that really that might be everything there. So thank you guys so much for listening to this awesome, important topic. And until I see you next, keep producing, preserving, and promoting that good, authentic human art that you love. And I will catch you later. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out. I'll see you next time.